Hello, and welcome back to the Sweet Spot. I am so excited that you are here. I hope that wherever you are, that you are feeling good. And if you're not, I hope you're acknowledging that and letting yourself feel what you're feeling. That's actually what we're going to talk about today. So, regardless of how you're feeling, I want you to know that you're going to walk away from today's episode with some tangible things that you can lean into that are going to help you change your experience. I've been thinking lately about like, gosh, what are my favorite things that I've learned through coaching and through the process of like all of this really deep inner work that I have done over the last few years. And some of it is super basic and super foundational, and some of it is deeper and a little more intense or a little more you know, a little more detailed or cumbersome, I would say. But I want to start with a couple of the basics, and I'm just going to throw these out like in 10-minute episodes, just because I think when I consume information in bite-sized pieces, which is always my goal here, I I love that I can listen to something for 10 minutes and hopefully I'm given an action item that I can actually go do something with and then go put it to practice, right? Like I've even started restricting how many pages of a book I read at a time because I can take down a self-help book in a week max if I let myself. And the whole time I'm like, this is so good. This is so good. And I consume all of this information and I take it all in and then I finish the book and then I'm like, did I ever do anything with that? And so what I've started to do is just read one chapter at a time or read 10 pages at a time and really slow down the process of consuming so that I can actually integrate the information. And I could do a whole episode on this that we are like over consuming. It's why we're feeling so distracted and all of that. And I will probably now. I'm going to add that to my list. But my favorite lesson that I have learned, my favorite knowing that I have adopted and now believe is true in the depths of my soul because it's scientific and I've also experienced it so many times and I see it at play all day, every day now. And I see it at play in my kids and my husband and everyone around me. And I see it at play with my clients. And it is this: the thoughts in your brain create the feelings in your body. The thoughts in your brain create the feelings in your body. And once I learned this, you guys, like once I understood that it wasn't just the feeling that I was existing in that I needed to focus on, but more importantly, and instead, the thoughts in my brain that were leading to the feelings in my body that I needed to focus on, I suddenly realized the power that I had to change my experience. Because here's the cool thing. You are in charge of the thoughts in your brain. You are in charge of the story that you are telling yourself. And really, all that the thoughts are in our brain is just the stories that we're telling ourselves. And so when you start to see the power in this and how it can change your life and change your experience throughout your day, you are going to see how powerful you really are as a human. Because every day we are faced with hundreds of circumstances that our brain analyzes and creates thoughts about. And then in turn, our body feels a feeling from each one of those thoughts. And so I'm going to like sidebar for a second and help you see why it's so important that you pay attention to how much you're consuming. Because when you're consuming a ton of information and your brain takes that information in and writes its own story about it, and then you feel feelings in your body from that, you are creating thousands of nervous system responses throughout your day. And so I think it's just important to mention, and like I said, I will record an entire separate episode on this, but like paying attention to how much information we're observing and consuming, now that you know that every single thought that you think creates a response in your nervous system, might help you understand why you might be feeling overwhelmed or a little anxious. Is not just the current thoughts that are in your conscious brain, but there's also thousands of thoughts happening back here in your subconscious brain. And so it's just valuable to know, like when I'm feeling super overwhelmed or anxious, like what's going on up here? Am I over consuming? Am I taking in all of this information? Am I scrolling on my phone? and taking in all of this information about other people and other people's lives or the news. And in turn, my brain is creating these stories, and those stories, these sentences in our brain are creating feelings in our body. So often, why we feel stressed, overwhelmed, overstimulated, right? And so once you understand this and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Is that if I'm feeling a certain way, it's because of what's going on up here in my brain that is leading to that. And I am in charge of the thoughts that I think. Now, there's a little caveat to this because on autopilot, our subconscious brain is actually in charge of the thoughts that we think. And so, the importance of slowing down enough to consciously choose your thoughts, which is what coaching is really all about, is just creating thinking thoughts on purpose that lead to the feelings that we want to feel more of, that lead to the actions and the reactions that we want to exist in so that we can create the results that we want. Like that is the foundation of most coaching, is that you have the power to change your results by changing your mindset, by changing the way that your brain is experiencing circumstances, which in turn changes the way we feel. Right. And there's so many opportunities throughout our days to see this and practice it. And there are so many examples. And I think like the most powerful place that I see this is in my parenting, because we've got these little humans with developing brains running around our homes and sometimes acting a fool or doing things that our brains are like, what is happening? And it creates feelings in our body. And if you notice, parenting triggers nervous system responses, I think, faster than many things. And there are really a lot of reasons for this. Is A, they are just like humans, our little humans are just our own mirrors for like things that we need to heal, and judgment that we like, projections that we have, and judgment that we have of ourselves that shows up in the form of the little humans that do life in our home. But it's such a powerful example of how we can create our experience by managing our brains. And so, for example, say my daughter Sadie wakes up. She's not our morning person. That's not like a statement that I'm really like fully sold on, but she's convinced herself that she's not a morning person. So when she wakes up, many days she is in a mood. And I used to really think that this was a problem. I'm like, we got to figure this out. We've got to find some other way to like get her up so that we don't have to take on the experience of Sadie in a bad mood in the morning. And I'm like, here I am. I'm watching this circumstance like a movie. And so she's waking up and she is unhappy. And my brain is making a problem out of it, which is in turn creating this nervous system response that is frustrating and annoyed and like wants to change it. I'm arguing with what's happening in real life right in front of me. And so I would find myself flustered in the morning because she wasn't being who I thought she should be in the morning. Like I am. I'm a morning person. I'm a happy person in the morning. And I'm like, I'm creating this suffering. I'm creating this experience for myself because I know the sentences that are going through my brain, which are, I wish that she would wake up happy. What is wrong here? Like, we've got to fix this. This isn't right. This isn't okay. We've got to change this, was leading to this angst and this frustration in my body. And then I was acting from that place. I wasn't being the mom that I want to be. I wasn't starting my day off feeling super calm and happy and peaceful, but I was creating that experience. And so as soon as I recognized this, I'm like, I've got to change the way I think about this. I could focus on changing the circumstance, right? We got to get her to bed earlier. We've got to get her some sleep help. Like, and I'm sure those are always options, but the reality is you can change your experience of something right now. It might take some time to change circumstances. And sometimes when we change the circumstance and we don't change our thoughts, we end up recreating the circumstance anyway. So I zoomed out and I'm like, who do I want to be in the mornings? I want to feel calm. I want to feel at ease. I want to flow through my mornings. I want to be present. I want to be available. The last thing I want is to feel frustrated and annoyed first thing in the morning. So I decided that I wasn't going to let it be a problem that she wasn't waking up super happy. I decided that I was going to neutralize my thoughts about it and not even think that's like, gosh, I wish that she was happier, because as soon as I want something to be different than it is, I've induced some sort of response that isn't a positive feeling. And so what I do instead is when I wake her up, I go in and detach from her response to it and I just give her a giant, long 3 or 4 minute hug. I'm like, that's the mom that I want to be. I don't want to match her mood. I don't want to match her energy. and I don't have to. And what that leads to is like, was I decided, how do I want to feel? I want to feel calm and peaceful. So I go in there and I snuggle with her and I give her a big hug and I remind her how much I love her and that I hope that she slept well. I don't attach to the fact that she's not in a good mood. And guess what happens? She now matches my energy. I have a friend, Megan, who says that as moms, most often, we are the CEO, the chief energy officer of our home. And if we're intentional about it, we can reset the feeling within our home. And so I applied that here. I'm like, why don't I set the energy instead of trying to match hers? Why set the energy? I set the tone. I set the vibration and see what happens. Because as soon as I make it a problem that she's in a bad mood, I've matched her energy. I am now frustrated and annoyed exactly like she is. And of course, we've landed ourselves on a whole new experience. Me loving on her for a couple of minutes, which is no skin off my back. It's actually a beautiful way to greet her, has led her to waking up, feeling seen, feeling cared for. It's changed our entire dynamic because I changed the experience. I changed the thoughts that I had about it. I stopped making it a problem. I stopped judging the circumstance and decided to step into my power and change my experience of it. This is why changing your thoughts can change your circumstances. It can change your results. Because every thought we think creates a feeling in our body. And so I want you to check in right now. And this is your takeaway. I want you to check in right now and go, how am I feeling right now? And just notice, if you can, close your eyes for a minute and just notice, how am I feeling? Maybe put your hand over your heart and just really drop into your body. How am I feeling? And whatever that feeling is, I want you to just take a trip up to your mind and go, what thoughts am I thinking that are leading to this feeling in my body? Maybe you're feeling super calm because you just had a really incredible conversation, or you're feeling, at peace because you just had a really incredible conversation with a friend. Maybe you're feeling a little bit heightened because you're late and you're running behind. And your mind is like, I've got to hurry, we're running late. Right? Maybe you're feeling a little bit down because you've been thinking about some news that you got. Maybe you're feeling excited because you're thinking about something that's ahead of you. I want you to see the power in that. We get excited when we imagine in our brains something that we're looking forward to. It hasn't happened yet, but our imagination, our brain has the power to experience it ahead of time. That's how powerful and how true and how undeniable this connection is the way that we are feeling emotionally in our body is always, always, always triggered by the thoughts that we're thinking in our brain. And not to nerd out on a bunch of brain science or anything like that, but, I'm going to go there because that is the basis of all the coaching that I do, is I think they say we think like 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000 thoughts a day go through this brain of ours. And without us consciously choosing thoughts based on how we want to feel, our brain more naturally thinks negative thoughts because those are more protective. They keep us safe. Right? We have primal brains that have not evolved. And so they are still wired for survival. And so on autopilot, if we're not consciously choosing our thoughts, of those 60,000 thoughts, they say 90% of them are negative. When I learned this, I'm like, well, no freaking wonder we're walking around feeling stressed and heightened and frustrated, like on autopilot. That is our more natural state because of our protective primal brains. And then you think about all the information that we consume and how much of it is actually uplifting and positive. Like, you scroll my Instagram feed and I only have positive, uplifting content on there. I block, mute, unfollow anything that I see that triggers a negative nervous system response from me. That was a boundary I set 2 years ago and it changed my life. I am very protective of what I put into my brain because I know that even if I'm not fully registering it in my conscious thought, my brain is smart enough to attach to a dangerous topic, a dangerous piece of information, and create a protective nervous system response, right? You hear things like you're in fight or flight, you're operating out of survival. Like, that's what this is, you guys. And we don't need that function of our brain like we used to when we traveled in tribes and we lived out in the wild and we had, animals chasing us and dangerous, we were in dangerous environments. Like, it's 2025, but our brains have not evolved. They are still wired for primal function. And so we get to consciously start creating our experience by consciously choosing better feeling thoughts. This is the power of coaching. I jokingly said to my coach the other day, we were coaching something, and I'm like, so you're saying it's my thoughts again? After 6 years of coaching, it's still my brain that's keeping me stuck and trying to keep me safe and trying to tell me this is a bad idea because it wants me to play small. And yes, it's still your thoughts. It's always your thoughts. And we can get into the science of like conscious and subconscious and nervous system driven and generational and all of the things that are also true. But ultimately, what's changed my life over the last 6 years is that I've learned how to consciously think thoughts that make me feel a certain way, that make me take a certain action, that help me create a certain result. And so when you learn to use your brain to create a valuable brain that works for you and the things that you want to create in your life and the feelings that you want to exist in your life, everything changes. And so there's your second exercise, is to go, how do I want to feel today? And what thoughts could I shift into, could I bring into my awareness that would help me to feel that feeling? What thoughts can I consciously choose that would help me to feel that feeling? That's how powerful you are, is you can completely consciously design and create your days by consciously choosing thoughts that feel a certain way so that you can exist in a certain action and result. I mean, it's so cool. It's so wild. It's so cool. It has changed my whole damn life, you guys. I always think like everything I exist in right now, every result, the best marriage I've ever existed in is because I consciously choose the thoughts I think about Dan, right? You always hear like we're hardest on ourselves and the people that are closest to us, because those are the safest places to be critical and judgmental and let that function of our brain play. But it can also be the most harmful. Yes, I've existed in a lot of seasons where my judgmental brain around my marriage was loud. But I'm like, this is not what I want. I don't want to think those thoughts about the person I love the most. I don't want to feel this way in the relationship outside of me that matters the most. And so I rewrote the script. What do I want to think about him that is true? How do I want to feel in my marriage, and what thoughts would allow me to feel that way? It's so simple, but it takes practice. And so I invite you to do those two things. I want you to check in with yourself right now and ask yourself, how am I feeling? And what thoughts are leading to this feeling? And then I want you to ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And what thoughts would lead to that feeling? And then I want to hear from you, because honestly, if I can teach you anything on this podcast a million different ways, it's this. It's that if you can learn how to manage your mind and consciously choose thoughts that serve you, you can change your whole damn life. And if you want to collapse time on it and you want to do this work with someone else's eyes and ears on your brain, which is why I have 2 coaches and probably will for the rest of time, find a coach. Find someone who can help you see what's happening in your brain that's leading to the results that you're currently creating in your life, that's leading to the feelings that you're currently existing in, so that they can help you unpack it and figure out what's keeping you stuck and help you move forward, because that is what we do. That is what we do in coaching. You guys know in the show notes, there's always a link to whatever I've got going on right now. Right now, you can jump into Sweet Spot Collective. Right now, I have one spot open for one-on-one coaching. All of these things are available to you. There are millions of incredible coaches out in the world. I'm not just here to sell coaching. I'm here to tell you the power that you have to change your life if you say yes to this kind of work. All right, guys, take this homework with you. I'd love to hear from you on how it serves you. I love you so much, and I will see you on the next episode.